Hello.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. Rufus, good evening.
Good evening, buddy.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. So, script horizontal. Are you able to see me properly?
Angie, I think
Hello.
you should tilt your phone.
Okay, sir. 1 second.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Premjith Mathew, and I welcome you all to this fifth session of Books and Coffee. Before we start the session, let us welcome today's book reviewers. So, we have Ms. Lakshmi Priya. She's a founder at Pakidam Tales, Trichy, Tamil Nadu. So, welcome, Lakshmi ma'am. I hope you'll join us soon. The next speaker we have today is Professor Angeline Sorna. She's a professor at Jayaraj Anna Pakyam College for Women in Periyakulam, near Madurai. So welcome, ma'am, also. Then we have Professor Sai Shri Ramamurthy. She is with Sri Venkateshwara Pre-University and Degree College, Bangalore. Welcome, ma'am. The next speaker is Professor Rajkumari. She has authored a book, and right now she's working as a quality analyst in Chennai. So these are the four lovely speakers we have for the evening. And before we start with the session, I think there is a need to talk about the kind of evolution of Readers Rendezvous, the reading group, which the reason why we are all here. It's so special to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Rufus because he is the energy and the force behind this event. And I thank him for giving me a chance to moderating this session because it's something special that somebody gives a platform, like to present your ideas. So thank you, Dr. Rufus. And Readers Rendezvous was formed in the year 2017. I think one of the lovely memories I have is of Buddy with Rufus sharing with me a kind of underlined screenshots from the book The Crow Eaters by Bapsi Sidhwa. So one night he just shared that screenshot with me in WhatsApp, and because he was reading that book right that time, and he was so excited about the book, and he wanted to share it with me. Then he was asking me, why can't we create a kind of a group? Then I told him, why not? We can go ahead. And next day, the group was created. And ever since in our group, we have discussed thousands and hundreds of books, not just books, ideas, theories, and a lot of things we have discussed. And that place has become a great learning platform for many people, right? And so now we are again, we have reached a situation where Readers Rendezvous has actually gone forward. And we have actually come to a situation where like every week we have a lovely event. It's a beautiful way of coming together and celebrate books. So that's one thing. And he's also a person who encourages people to read a lot, and he's one person who keeps replying to all the giving feedback to all the posts that is in the group, right? So all these things are really good, and I hope that if anyone of you would like to join, if non-members of Readers Rendezvous attending the session, please contact Dr. Rufus, and if you're interested, we will definitely add you in the group. And I hope that this group and this weekly sessions will have greater meaning, and we'll have a lovely session together, right? So before we start, I just want to spell out the so-called, the kind of guidelines for this session. Each speaker will speak for 10 to 15 minutes, and there will be time for some, question answer session. Just one or two questions we'll have. Then after the presentations, there will be a time for a short discussion. Then I also request all the participants to ask questions. When you ask questions, make sure that the questions are kind of, something which makes people more interested in the book. Let us not do an autopsy of the book here. Let us not do a kind of, cross-examination of the book. Okay, definitely we can do it. We can even do it even beyond this session, because we are all in touch with each other. So please, you can post your questions in the chat box so that we can ask the questions, or you can even unmute yourself and ask the question. That's one thing. And second thing, please, everyone, only for the speaker. Others, please mute your microphone because to keep the decorum in place, right? So I think our first speaker for the day is here. Lakshmi Priya ma'am. So I think we'll start with her session, and then we'll move on to the next person, right? So I welcome Lakshmi Priya ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello. Yes, good evening. So we'll be talking about the topic shift in narrative from Magus to Magpie. So that's the topic, and I leave the floor to Lakshmi ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. I chose two books actually. When Rufus sir was asking me to do a book review, I said I'm not, how do I put it? I'm not really good at reviewing a book, because that means that, you need to know a lot of things, not just about the book, but about the scenario in which the book was written. And so I said that, sir, maybe I can share certain views about it. And it was really difficult to pick those books, and I ended up picking two big books. One is Magus, and the next one was Magpie Murder. Now, if we look at Magus and Magpie Murder, these are books that are written in a gap of 55 years. Now, Magus is written by a writer called John Fowles. We know John Fowles, but this is one particular book that not many people would have come across. And similarly, the other book that I have chosen,
You can continue. Please continue, Rashmi.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah. Carry on, no problem.
Yeah. The other book that I have chosen is Magpie Murders. Now, Magpie Murders is written by a writer called Anthony Horowitz. Again, when I ask around to people about Anthony Horowitz, not many people have read him. Even if they have read him, they would have read him for a different genre that he writes. That's young adult book. And Day Before Yesterday. Not Day Before Yesterday. Yeah, Day Before Yesterday, I was reading the latest book of him. It's called Moonflower Murders. And now, now how I'm going to go with this discussion is, it's going to be different. It's going to be actually distinguished into 4 parts, and I would be talking about the first part would involve the narrative technique itself. Now, particularly Magus and Magpie Murder. or even Moonflower Murder. If we take all these three books, now Moonflower and Magpie is written by Anthony Horowitz and Magus is written by John Fowles. When you take these two narratives, what we see basically is there is a break in the middle of the book. Now Magus starts in the beginning, and then towards the middle, when when we readers are expecting something to happen, there is a shift in the narrative and something changes. Now I am not going to reveal that part, because if you have to go back and read it at the later point in time, like if I break the suspense, there is no point in that. Similarly, when it comes to Moonflower Murder and Magpie Murder, both these books, what happens is, if you keep going towards exactly in the end of the exactly in the middle of the novel, there is a shift. There is a shift in the sense, when I'm saying when I'm talking about shift, it's not like there is a surprise or anything. The book changes. The book changes in the sense we end up reading two books when we are reading one book. It's the case with Magpie Murder. I'll tell you how it happens. Like the novel starts with an editor who's editing a book. So we will be reading that particular book. And then in the middle of that, when it's a mystery, so in the middle, when the mystery is going to be solved, there will be a break, and the editor will start narrating a totally different story. You will not know whether this story that you have been reading has any connection whatsoever with the story that you are going to read from the middle. And in the end, sometimes, Anthony Horowitz leaves it hanging. For example, Moonflower, he comes to a sort of ending, but in Magpie Murder, there is no such ending. Now, why did I take up this particular aspect is because of this one term called zapping. When we take 21st century, for example, we always talk about, how there should be a great beginning and a great ending. But in 21st century, the novels are created in that way where, when readers sort of, go into that lull, they start getting used to that novel. There is a break, the break that wakes you up, and then, it makes you go like, okay, fine, I have to go along with the novel. And that happens in the middle. And that's kind of beautiful. And that makes you, that really makes you think, okay, fine, what is happening with the novel? Now, this term zapping is used even by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie in his latest novel uses this technique again. But zapping itself, interestingly, comes from this term where we change the channel when we're watching a TV, like, we keep zapping the channel. So the writers use that technique, they see it, they see how much our short span is, how short our, what do I call it, attentive span is low, and then they go about like, okay, fine, if I have to make my readers, concentrate on what I'm saying, maybe I should give that shift. And interestingly, though these two novels are written, in a difference of 55 years, both these novels have that that quality towards it. It's not that only these two novels have this, but these two novels are, how do I put it, are similar in a lot of other ways. The other thing that I was going to talk about was personalization. In both these novels, the writer, the protagonist is a writer. For example, when it comes to Magus, the protagonist is a writer. Similarly, when it comes to Magpie Murder and Moonflower Murder, which is a continuation, there also the protagonist is a writer, editor. And the whole novel itself talks about the process of creation. Now, before a few weeks when Jinasa was talking, he was also talking about this concept called Foyaminan. And I wanted to bring in a little bit about Foyaminan, but we'll do it after some time. Now, why this writing process? I as a person who has been working with a lot of manuscripts, I keep asking, why do people introduce writing elements into the process of writing? Like, if you are reading a book, why do they talk so much about writing? Now, to answer this question, I was reading an interesting article by Anish Chandy. Now, I do not know how much of you know Anish Chandy. Anish Chandy is like the biggest literary agent in India. And he does a lot of column on how literary scenario works, not just in India, but in global ways, in LinkedIn and a lot of other like Hindu and all those literary spaces. And when I was reading one of his articles, he talks about sir.
Fine, carry on, no problem, it's fine. It's okay, your voice is okay, you can speak. Can you hear us?
I think there is a network issue. I'm just seeing a blank space here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, carry on. We can hear you. We can. Please carry on.
Prem, sir?
Yes.
Can anybody hear me?
It's fine. Good. Carry on. You check the chat box.
Yeah. I got the message.
No problem.
Okay. So I was talking about how Anish Chandy wrote this article. Yeah, and when he says that, as writers, we always go to different places, do a lot of research. We sort of put a lot of effort in creating the manuscript itself. But sometimes it's simpler to give anecdotes from our own life rather than going out and searching for it. And we see that happening in both Magus and the Magpie murder. Now let me give you an example from Magpie murder. In that, when Anthony Horowitz is talking about the editor, the protagonist, he always mentions from his own life, he quotes himself, he puts himself in that novel, though he's not the part of that novel. He has nothing to do with the novel, but he comes inside the novel as a character. Similarly, in Magus, though there is no direct contact, we cannot see John Fowles right there, but a lot of times when you read about John Fowles and then when you read the character, when you analyze the character, you find that there is a lot of connection between John Fowles and the character, the protagonist itself. Now that's interesting because as a writer, that makes the process of writing itself easier. It gives you a personalized value. These are two things that I wanted to really bring into forefront, because when I read a manuscript, for example, let me put it this way, last week I published a book by a person called Venugopal. Now, when he wrote experiences of his life as different short stories, I was just reading it, and after the first reading, I asked him, sir, why there is so much of spaces where you talk about people as somebody who is not able to achieve anything, they aspire for great things but they're not able to achieve it. Why is that? And then he was like, ma'am, did I actually create it that way? I didn't want to create it that way. I didn't even know that I have done it. Then I started pointing, so in the first story there is this character, the second story there is this character, but all these characters had one thing in common, and that is an inability to perform, inability to do certain things that they wanted to do. Maybe it is sometimes about monetary, maybe it's about sometimes rising up in your position, maybe it's sometimes about the inability to write itself, or inability to communicate whatever you have got in your mind. But there was this whole how do I put it, a line of thought that was connecting. Then at that point in time, I understood why it was what Anish Chandy was saying made more sense. Because if you are writing about yourself in your book, it makes more sense than you writing about something that you absolutely don't know. So these are two elements that I wanted to bring in. I know that I have just got 4 minutes, but I'll just go through a quick two more points. The third point that I wanted to tell was 21st century audience are looking for ideologies. Let it be about anything, but they want writers to take stand. Now J.K. Rowling controversy is one good example of how people want you to articulate what you want to think. But as readers of literature, it's much easier for us to know, okay, what is selling in the market, what is not selling in the market, what is a research material, what is not a research material, to analyze that. When we read Magus and Magpie Murder, though it's set in different time frame, though it has got this 55 years gap, both were bestsellers at that point in time. Now, why do some writers, achieve that best-selling, best-selling list as well as it is equally literary in its? Because if we take Chetan Bhagat, for example, a lot of us do not agree that he's a good writer, but there are writers who are best-selling. They come in top 100 lists. At the same time, they are able to, have a connection with literary audience. They are able to bring in a lot of elements. And these two books has that, these two books makes you think, works on an ideological level, like both of them. For example, Anthony Horowitz talks about gay issue. He discusses it. He creates an awareness. At the same time, he doesn't have this condescending attitude. Similarly, Magus also, it is set in a post World War era. So it talks a lot about Nazi culture. Not just that, it even sometimes goes to the extent of ridiculing whatever happened in the name of World War. But given all that, it never even, how do I put it? It never talks to you in a condescending way. It is not like, okay, man, you do not know it. It's not like that. It's like, John Fowles and Anthony Horowitz sets a standard, says that, oh, these are the things that are happening in the world. Maybe you have to take it up. And these are some reasons that I wanted to tell, so that, maybe when I get something to read, I like to read these kind of materials. So both as an editor, both as a writer and a reader, these two books had a lot of similarity, and I wanted to share about it today. Thank you so much for giving the opportunity.
Thank you, Lakshmi, for the lovely, very involved presentation. That's a beauty of having someone from the industry speaking about, it's so good. Thank you for the presentation. And if you have any questions for Lakshmi Priya, we can I can have the questions now. 1 or 2 questions, I think is we can have it now. So do we have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
This is Lakshmi Priya. This is Dr. Rufus.
Hi,
Thank
sir.
you. Hi. Thank you for this wonderful elucidation. You gave us a lot of wonderful insights that we didn't know. As a literary consultant, you have given us a new insights also. Well, most of the things that you have said, I have written it down, like, Anish Chandi's, insights or anecdotes from our own life that sell. You have to take a stand, you said. That's a beautiful concept. You will have to take a stand sometime. You can be ideological, but take a stand. And, but you write it down. That's a wonderful point. I have a little question for you, right? It's not, it's just a thought. In the sense, what in my normal day, I write something. Okay. So whatever I think, I write it down in my diary or whatever, right? Anecdotes from my own life. Does it sell? Or does it have to be spicy to sell?
Sir, there are 2 ways of looking at it, sir. For example, let me put it this way, sir. Now, saleable and non-saleability is totally based on what people are looking at that point in time. I do not want to go into the controversial territories, but just look at the books that are coming up at this point in time. When it comes to India, you will understand there is always a way you can identify. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's okay now. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. As I was saying, that if you look into the books that have come in India at this point in time, it's like nothing going to let's take Netflix series for example that have come, in the past, let's say 2-3 years. From India, the ones that are created in India, you'll always see that there is so much of controversies that keep spinning. Again, you know what? If you think you will understand what I'm trying to tell, maybe we can discuss in the group further, sir, because I do not know it. Maybe it's in YouTube and all that. So let me just take this. But there is always one ideology that is being dominated, and then there is an exactly opposite ideology that comes, and these two sells really well. Now, answering your question, you do not have to exactly but these ideologies will affect you at certain times, sir. I do not know how. I have lots of examples, but I'm just scared to give you this out. But that ideologies actually affect you very personally, very badly. And when you write that, people are able to connect with you in a better way. They are able to either antagonize with you, or they are able to say, okay, fine, I have felt it. Now those emotional materials has a thing always with people, sir. So it sells when that kind of things are uttered out. So when you write, always try to, there is this concept, right? It's personal to global and global to personal. So try to bring in that element. As a teacher, you will be undergoing that on everyday basis. So obviously, sir.
Thank you. You said it well. Thank you, Ms. Lakshmi. Right? Thank you.
Any other questions for Lakshmi Priya? If you have any other questions.
There is a review that says that controversy sell book.
Yes.
That's actually true. Controversy does sell book.
Yeah.
India away from the country, so we need to be a bit
I think Shashi Tharoor is one example. Yeah. So I think thank you, Lakshmi, for that lovely talk.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, sir.
Listening to you, thanks a lot. I will move on to the next speaker for the day. We have Professor Angeline Sorna. She's going to talk about a book, the name The Sunflower by Simon Wiesenthal. I hope the pronunciation is okay. So, Angeline, ma'am, welcome, and the floor is yours. Yes, thank you.
Okay, sir. Hello, good evening to all. And my heartfelt thanks to the admins of RR for this delightful evening of books and coffee. And it's a real delight sharing the forum with Ms. Lakshmi Priya, Ms. Sai Shri Ramamurthy, and Ms. Rajkumari. And the book I have chosen to review is Simon Wiesenthal's The Sunflower. Okay, so this is not a very newly published book, neither is it my favorite book, but I wanted to speak about it because it is an important and powerful book. So when it was suggested to me a few years back, actually it was the name that caught my attention. Sunflower, so vibrant, so cheerful. The last name you would think to be the title of a book connected to the Holocaust. But I'm happy I bought the book because, it's like no the book I'd ever read. Like, it's so different. And this amazing book, as the subtitle says, is on the possibilities and limits of forgiveness. And, it discusses these philosophical questions like the dichotomy between when it comes to forgiveness, who is the giver, who is the receiver, what can be forgiven, what cannot be forgiven, and on the ethics of forgiving and all that. And it was published 50 years back, 1969, first in German and later translated to English. And now a little about Simon Wiesenthal. He was a Jew from Ukraine and he was an architect by profession. But when the Nazis occupied Poland, he was arrested and he was sent to various concentration camps. And it's very sad that he lost 89 of his family members in the Holocaust. But he survived. And then after the liberation, along with 30 other survivors, he started the Jewish Documentation Center. And the rest of his life he spent in documenting the Holocaust and also bringing the perpetrators to justice. So he is called the Jewish James Bond, because like he has helped track 1,100 Nazi criminals and bring them to justice. That includes Adolf Eichmann and Karl Seyboth, the officer who arrested Anne Frank. So for his monumental work, like he's given a lot of awards and honors that includes 16 honorary doctorates, and he's also written other books like Non-Vengeance, Tales of Hope, Everyday Remembrance Day, The Murderers Among Us. But The Sunflower remains the most popular book. So what is so special or what is so important about this book? I think it is because it gives a call to your conscience. It kind of opens discussions and it gives arguments on both sides. Like I'll explain it a little later. Like the book actually is in two parts. The first part, The Sunflower, which is about 1/3 of the book, is it's like a memoir of Simon Wiesenthal in various ghettos and concentration camps. And in 1943, he is in a concentration camp in Lemberg. And then he talks about the inhuman treatment he's dealt with and also the traumatic experiences he has there. But then the narrative kind of revolves around one particular incident, like that happened in a hospital. Now he's assigned his group of people, they are sent to the military hospital to do some menial work. And as he is marching towards this hospital, he sees this German military cemetery, and there on the grave of each of the German soldiers, there stands blooming a beautiful sunflower. And then it makes a very pretty picture. The backdrop with a dark green, huge trees and this blooming sunflower with the butterflies hovering over it. He couldn't help feeling kind of envy, like what, even in death they are like superior to us, like their connection with beauty and life continues even after death. And then he reaches while he thinks like, if it is for me or any other Jew, it would be like it would be a mass grave, or like if we don't go up the chimney. So that is what he thinks. And then he reaches the hospital, and then something very strange happens. A nurse ushers him to the bedside, the deathbed of an SS officer, and there's a very young guy, and he's like completely bandaged up and is very badly wounded, and is like a mummy, like not even his eyes are visible. And he kind of, in a voice that's a little more than a cracked whisper, he kind of confesses all the crimes he had committed against the Jews as a Nazi soldier. And especially one incident, he is he keeps telling, like, when he was stationed in Russia, they was ordered to set ablaze a building. It had 300 Jews in it, mainly women, children, and the elderly. And when the building was burning, people, like especially one family, he very clearly remembers, a father, mother, and a child, a beautiful child. They tried to jump out of the window, trying to escape the flames, and then they were shot down by the Nazis. Like, so he is unable to forget all this, and he is unable to forget the memory of all these, the screams, the pain and horror. And then, like, he wants, and before he dies, he wants absolution from his sins, like from a Jew, and he asks that forgiveness from Simon Wiesenthal. And now we have to remember that Simon Wiesenthal has lost 89 of his own family members in the Holocaust, and he's still in the concentration camp when this happens. So he's kind of like, though he extends human respect, empathy, he listens, he offers him water when he couldn't speak and all that, but he is compassionate, he's understanding, but he couldn't get himself to forgive. Like, so he leaves the room without saying anything. And the next day he finds from the nurse that the soldier had died. And this kind of haunts him, like, oh, okay, did I do the right thing? And then later when he discusses with his friends in the concentration camp, two people say, like, yes, you did the right thing, because you do not have the moral rights to forgive everybody's, the sin done against like 6 million people. If it's just against you, yes, but so you did good. But then, like, another friend from another inmate from a Christian background, he says, like, no, anyone who asks for forgiveness should be given. Like, so again, he's still in the thought, and then 4 years he's in the camp, and then he loses all his friends and most of his family members. And after liberation, 2 years later, he sees a sunflower. Suddenly he's like, and and then he's completely, he remembers Carl, that's the name of this SS officer, and he remembers Carl speaking very fondly of his mother. So he even goes visits his mother, but he doesn't break her illusion of his son being a very good boy and all that. So now years roll by, but then this one question keeps haunting Simon Wiesenthal. What did I do the right thing? So then that is the reason why he wrote this book, The Sunflower. And there he asks us, like he kind of asks the reader this, like he says this: you who have read the tragic episode of my life could mentally change place with me and ask yourself the crucial question, what would I have done? So literally he wants the reader's response. Okay. And but then he doesn't stop with just that. What he does is he has written the same question to 53 important people. So who are these important people? They are Holocaust survivors, theologians, writers, victims of other genocide, attempted genocides, psychiatrists, human rights activists, and more. And the second part of the book, the symposium, is a collection of these responses. This is where the book becomes really interesting, because this hypothetical question, when it comes together with the faith and the experience of the writers, of each of those people who had responded, it becomes a kind of like the study of the human mind. And I thought I'll just share a few of the responses here, just a few. And Dalai Lama, as we know, he's a lifelong champion of nonviolence and compassion. So this is what Dalai Lama says in the book. He says, I believe one should forgive the person or persons who have committed atrocities against oneself and mankind. But this doesn't necessarily mean one should forget about the atrocities committed. In fact, one should be aware and remember these experiences so that efforts could be made to check the reoccurrence of such atrocities in the future. So he is for forgiving, but not for forgetting. And he also remembers one Buddhist monk who has spent 18 years of his life in a Chinese prison. And he said, the biggest fear I always had is the fear of losing my compassion for the Chinese. So that is the response of Dalai Lama. And then if you see Primo Levi is an Italian chemist and a Holocaust survivor. He is also a writer. And and he says Wiesenthal did the right thing by not forgiving, because he says even in the deathbed, the SS officer did not ask for one particular person or anyone. He didn't call for Simon. He called for a Jew, a Jew. And he's again, the Jew is objectified, and the superhuman using the subhuman as a tool to get absolution. So you don't have to do that. So that is the response of Primo Levi. And then if you see Desmond Tutu, Nobel Peace Prize winner, and leading voice against apartheid in South Africa. And again, he is also for forgiving. He says, without forgiveness, there is no future. And another interesting response I found is Jose Hobday, and she is a Native American nun. And she says, as a Native American woman, she had gone, she had undergone this discrimination all her life. And when she reads about the genocide and atrocities done against her people, she's kind of filled with rage, and she wants revenge and retaliation. And when she shared it to her mother, this is what her mother says. Okay, I'll just read a very short passage. She says, do not be so ignorant and stupid and inhuman as they are. Go to an elder and ask for the medicine that will turn your heart from bitterness to sweetness. You must learn the wisdom of how to let go of poison. So, she says, if you don't forgive, actually you are holding on to the poison, which will actually corrupt your own system. So sometimes it's good. And then Sean Amory, again a writer, is 5 more minutes. And then a critic and non-Jewish Holocaust survivor, he being an atheist, he says this question is it's either because he's an atheist, he doesn't, he feels it's only psychological or political. This question can be, and when it is psychological, it is matter of temperament or feeling that you forgive or not. And when it is political, it doesn't matter if Carl is forgiven or what. So actually, the work done by Simon Wiesenthal, the concrete work done in his documentation center, that is much more appreciable than the dabbling with all these abstract concepts. This is what Sean Amory says. But so we have 53 such varied answers in the symposium. And when we read them, we can see a kind of emerging pattern. We see that the Buddhists and the Christians, they are for forgiving, whereas the Jews are for justice. So it, it raises interesting questions do different religions have different ethics concerning forgiving? And also it makes us think, letting go help you be happier? Because we have to remember that Primo Levi and Sean Emery, two of them who told, like two of many who told that there's no need to forgive, and then though they survived the Holocaust many years later, like 20, 30 years after the Holocaust, they committed suicide. So sometimes, even if it is not for the sake of the perpetrator, at least for our own sake, should we forgive our enemies. Like, also the book explores themes such as anti-Semitism, the power of ideology and propaganda, and also different types of silence: the silence of the victim, the silence of the bystander, and also the compliance of the ordinary German. This is what Daniel Goldhagen says in his book, Hitler's Willing Executioners. He says, it's not, it's the ordinary Germans who are anxious only about the peace and quiet of their own family. These were the mounting blocks on which, the criminals climbed to power. So this book also looks into that part of, and also the issue of what Hannah Arendt would say, the banality of evil. The atrocities were not committed by some sadists or raving maniacs. They were normal people, actually even boring people, banal people, she says, like, who meticulously followed orders. So, and also the concepts of cheap grace, as Bonhoeffer would put it, and Paul Ricoeur's difficult forgiveness. So these are, and collective guilt, these are some concepts we can see in the book. And I'm reminded of another amazing book by Primo Levi. Sorry, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. There he gives his concentration camp experience, and he gives us a solution, his logotherapy, the gospel of hope and meaning. And here Simon Wiesenthal, after giving his concentration camp experience, he gives us a question, a burning question, that opens discussion, invites conversations, and it keeps the memory of Holocaust alive. And to whom can we recommend this book? To any individual reader, or maybe even teachers, and even it can be used as a study guide, to teach young minds that on the ethics of forgiving, and like value different viewpoints, and know, understand, and also value. So this is my understanding of Simon Wiesenthal's The Sunflower.
Okay. Thank you, Angeline, for that lovely, it's a heart kind of heart-wrenching kind of experience. When people had this, terrible times in our human history. Thanks a lot for sharing those memories. And I think I was just doing some kind of background reading about this book, and it was so strange that out of the 53 responses the author received, only 10 were ready to forgive. It's very strange. That shows how. Still, it's difficult to take a side. As we told, it's very difficult. It's still kind of, it oscillates between this so-called good, so-called evil, and really good presentation. I think time has come for us to ask questions to Angeline ma'am. So if anyone has any questions, please, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question. Yeah. Yes, I think there is a question from Sumati ma'am. She wanted to know what is this sunflower? The word sunflower. What does it represent, or what does it stand for?
Okay, the sunflower, yes, ma'am. Thank you for this lovely question. Okay, sunflower, the kind of the metaphor, it's the real and the metaphorical importance is there in the book throughout. The first part of the book. For Simon Wiesenthal, it is much more than just a flower. It is very symbolic. For him, it shows the difference. First, when he sees it in the German cemetery, it shows the difference. Like even in life, not only in life, even in death, how the Jews are different from the Nazis. So after that, when Karl, the SS officer, tries to get forgiveness, even there he kind of sees, like, minute he dies, he's going to get a sunflower. So sunflower, and 2 years later, when he thinks it's kind of providence, like he is on an outing with his wife, and he wants to look at a mountainside, and he was looking through the binoculars, and there suddenly behind a rock he sees a sunflower, and that reminds him of Karl. And then he goes and he meets his mother, and then this question comes up, and then he writes the book. So somehow he thinks the sunflower is kind of this symbol that constantly comes up when it comes to this, and he thinks even because of the flood, that is why even this book happened, is what he says. So.
Thank you, Angeline, and thank you, Sumati ma'am. Even I had the same, somewhere back in my mind, I had this, why the sunflower? Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for Angeline ma'am? If you want, you can even unmute your audio and you can ask directly. Okay, I think that's it. So thank you, Angeline ma'am. It was lovely listening to you. Thanks a lot for the book, right? And let us move on to the next speaker for the day. We have Professor Sai Shri Ramamurthy, and I think we listen to Sai ma'am now about DNA. Lovely, excellent. Yes, ma'am. You can start.
Hoping that I'll do justice for the opportunity given, I start my review. And my review is about the book called DNA, The Story of the Genetic Revolution. It's written by James Watson, who elucidated the structure of the DNA. Right? So, the DNA, the book starts with this concept. Oswald and Avery, they were the scientists who discovered that DNA is the genetic material. But then they were not given the Nobel Prize because there were so many controversies happening. And then they moved on to elucidating the DNA structure of the DNA. There was a lot of confusion before, being like proteins are much larger molecules, and then they thought protein is the genetic material, and then they thought RNA, and then it was DNA. It was confirmed. There's one thing that's beautiful about this book is because, and even about the field, all these people are from different backgrounds other than biology as well. Biology is now a melting pot of different disciplines. They come from computational biology, they come from maths background, the scientists come from mathematics background, physics and chemistry. Even Watson and Crick, they are not from biology background. They are from a different background, even they are physicians. And what interested them, all of these people have one common thing. What stirred their interest was this book, written by another Nobel laureate called as Schrodinger. He wrote a called What Scientists who also went on to win Nobel prizes. They all read this book called What is Life, written by Schrodinger. And the book talks elaborately about the role of women, the role of Indians, and a variety of people. First, about elucidating the structure. This lady called as Rosalind Franklin. Often people think that it was chauvinism that she didn't get Nobel Prize. Rosalind Franklin, she didn't get Nobel Prize because she's a female, she's a woman. It's not like that. It's because she died at a very early age because of cancer. And she had differences between other group of scientists because she was very logical and brutally honest. She didn't take up anything which was not logical, without giving much space for imagination. The first part of the book, beginnings of genetics from Mendel to Hitler, and this James Watson has been brutally honest. He has been talking about eugenics that was happening during the World War, the Second World War, and so many people died because they were from a particular country, particular region. So it's been elaborately explained about the eugenics that happened, about the negative side that science had, and after the World War things changed. And there is another beautiful thing that is explained in this book, that is the importance of school education. Many of the Nobel laureates came from a particular school. They belong to the same science club and they all studied under the same science teacher. The importance of high school education, because see, if a person doesn't take up, if a person doesn't get interested in the high school, what is the chance for him to take up science at the PU or the degree level? So that is being highlighted really well. And then about replication, the story is, it's like whatever we use in the laboratory, the story, we really get to know about how it all started and the journey it had. And another one that is beautifully explained is like, who talks about science when someone is inebriated? Many of the genetic companies, the Genentech, the genetic engineering and technology, this was born in a bar, in a bar, a drinking bar over mugs of beer. And there was another genetic engineering company, another biotechnological company, which is called as Caltech, which is again was born in a fancy restaurant. That shows the passion for science. And there's a beautiful quote that being said by a scientist, by a professor to her student. Mary Claire, she has done an elaborate work on breast cancer genes. She thought about quitting the studies and going elsewhere, quitting the PhD and going elsewhere. That's when her professor told her, listen, say if the good experiments doesn't yield results, if the research work doesn't provide any fruit, and you stop doing science experiments, then there will be no science at all. And she listened to it. This is very motivating for anybody for that matter. There have been Nobel laureates who whose theories have bitten the dirt, as Watson says. His own theory has bitten the dirt once. They have fallen many a times and then risen up. Like, the resilience is highlighted in this book. And then Anand Chakrabarti is so enthusiastic when we read about Indians getting a Nobel Prize or starting up a company in a Western country, like Hargobind Khorana. He was the person who gave us the genetic code. As in, how can I say that? He translated the language of amino acids, the genetic basis into amino acids. So he won a Nobel Prize. And then this person, Anand Chakrabarti, he went on to start his own biotechnology firm. There is this conflict of interest. By the time of starting of the biotechnology companies, when biology came from academics, there is a shift between academics and then companies. And then some of the people were money-minded, like Craig Winter, who was later thrown out from his own company, the company which he co-founded, because he was the one. He did a very dramatic effort, as he did a tremendous effort to sequence the entire human genome. But then he was kind of money-minded, and then he was thrown out of his own company, which he co-founded. And then there was this thing, recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA is when we genetically engineer, we create organisms, we make changes in the organism. And this is when there is this kind of difference of opinion started. And the people who were protesting, this person, Jeremy, who wanted to protest for anything and everything. And James Watson has explained his stand beautifully. Like, even the changes in the genetic material happen in nature as well. When we are able to accept it, why can't we do this? His argument is that when something can be changed for the betterment of people, and a lot of people who suffer can be benefited, who are we to stop it? And then it is our responsibility as molecular biologists or biotechnologists, person from the science background, person from the biology background, it is our duty to do something for the better of the mankind. He says that. And then evolution. Evolution, it's like this person, Mary Claire, and her professor who started off the theory. And then there was a problem because of the anti-Vietnam War. And then she was again motivated. She gave the placenta of her own baby, as in when the tissue that comes out when a woman gives birth. She gave the placenta of her baby for research. She was more than willing to do that. That is the passion she had. There are a lot of women scientists like Rebecca Can, and then Mary Claire, and then Rosalind Franklin. Women feel more motivated to read this book, and then like
Yes, you can carry on. No problem. It's fine.
evolution can be looked at 2 points of view. One from the religion. What I would suggest is, please don't look at it from the point of religion, because religion says something else and this says something else. And then Neanderthal DNA was sequenced, and then we can all be proud to say that we have a percent of Neanderthal DNA. And this was the tagline of a company which was founded by two women, 23andMe. They did a wonderful effort, as in the cost of a human genome sequencing. I can get my genome sequenced by just 1 lakh rupees, which was earlier when all this research was started, was around like billions of dollars, and it came down to around just 1 lakh rupees. Lakh rupees may be expensive for us, but compare that with billions of dollars. And why is this important? James Watson, by the way, is the first person to get his genome sequenced, and he got an offer from a person who is an entrepreneur. Why do we do this? Because we can get to know the diseases, whatever we have, and we have a choice. Like if we are obsessed with particular gene, I mean, James Watson was obsessed with a particular gene which causes Alzheimer's disease. He said, please don't tell me about the disease, and then he got the other part of the genome sequence. And 23andMe, called as personal genomic sequencing, these ladies were providing genome sequences of individuals who were interested. And then again, it was protested because without the help of a physician, there could be errors. Without the help of a physician, if this is done, it could lead to disasters sometimes. So again, this was protested, and that's when Anand Chakrabarty also came in. There was a case between Anand Chakrabarty and Indian and Diamond. This is a very famous case. I'm not going to tell you about it because I feel it gives a different feel to read and know about this. This book is not just for the person from the science background, because everything, whatever it is, like he has even described the very basic thing which is there in the 6th standard textbooks of biology. He has described what is thorax. He has explained about what is thorax. There is a small line, whatever like technical terms, if it's there in the textbook, if it's there in the book, he has explained it by the end of the page so that even a layman can understand. And there was one scientist who was born for an extramarital affair, and he went on to achieve so much. It tells us to be broad-minded. It tells us not to be prejudiced. This is what I love about this book. And James Watson has also talked about the DNA dollars and biotechnology, which we have been discussing now. And then Tempest in a Cereal Box. There was one person who talked about the ill effects of the pesticides. This Watson had a chance to travel to Africa, and he found that most of the fields, the paddy fields, the agricultural fields were using pesticides, which were giving so much of detrimental effects to the environment. And this person who was protesting was portrayed in a very bad light. And then James Watson came to know about it, and then that's when the GMO, the genetically modified organisms, were born. Now again, there is this clan who talks about, who protests for everything, that every achievement in science, I could say. Oh well, I have a chance to protest now. There's this Jeremy, and there are so many other people who were protesting. And James Watson's argument was the changes, the mutations that happen in the nature. It's just the same thing that we do, but we do it very carefully, and it's a very directed type of mutation that we do, which will produce less of harmful effect. And then the next thing is that we also eat a lot of things that could be harmful, even in brinjal for that matter. We take in a lot of chemicals which could be harmful if we take it in a different way. So just because it's available in nature and doesn't do anything to us, doesn't mean that it's not harmful. It has its own side effects. So that's the argument that he put forth for GMO, genetically modified organisms. Finally, this was decided. So freedom was given for the people to choose between GMO and non-GMO. And then the next thing was mutating and adding another particular gene that is responsible for vitamins or proteins. The world is diverse, and even the Western countries have populations where the protein content or the vitamin content in their diet is less. So to enhance that, because that can lead to a range of disorders and diseases, to help that, what he has done is that he has decided to add another gene for production of vitamin, and that's where our fortified rice or golden rice was born. The things that I would highlight is about the effect of the high school teachers. It lives up to the quote that a teacher affects eternity. All this, he has said that statistically, there are so many people from the same school and the same science club who went on to win Nobel Prizes. And the arguments that James Watson had put forth, it's a kind of spicy book because a lot of arguments, even between the scientists, between different groups of scientists, who one side they looked at it as money. It's enough. Biology, academics and stuff we learn. Now we'll make money out of it. That's one group. And then that's when the fight for insulin happened. We have insulin from cow now. That's the production of insulin, artificial production of insulin. We have even a gene that can be artificially engineered, can be produced. So, and then the next argument was between Jeremy and Clan. And then, so could you please play the video for me?
Yeah, I'll do it.
I have given a video which I have highlighted. There's one person, Collins. Collins has been interested in both science and literature. He has even written a book called Wizard of Oz. At the age of 7, he has written, directed, and acted in that play. And then James Watson is one important thing which can be a motivation for many of us. James Watson was forced to resign from the company, from the laboratory. James Watson, the person who elucidated the structure of the DNA, was forced to resign. But then he didn't quit science. He was still motivated and still contributed to mankind. So could you please play the video for me?
Shall I play the video then? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, I'm so happy you came by. For a lesson about the essence of the Iowa, look why. DNA is a topic so fantastic. We're talking about deoxyribonucleic acid. If you've ever wondered about development in elephants and bumblebees, coffee trees, well, DNA is the recipe. In its home, in a chromosome in the nucleus, DNA drives the bus genetically controlling us. Infers and worms infectious germs, mommy's egg and daddy's sperm. DNA is the information linking up the generations. It's a code of life, so listen up well, because DNA is the molecule in charge of every cell. DNA. Fantastic deoxyribonucleic acid. We're talking about deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA. Fantastic. The shape is key, probably well known to you. Double helix, twisted ladder, or a double corkscrew. Imagine a twisted length and tape with deoxyribose sugars on the edges with phosphate. Sugar phosphate, making up the sides of the ladder with nitrogenous bases on the inside. With the bases like the rungs, together with deoxyribose sugar and a phosphate make a nucleotide. Deoxyribonucleotides are the monomers, link them together for the DNA polymer. 0.34 nanometers marks the space between one nucleotide and the next one's place. And for the helix to make one turn takes 10 bases in a row, as you can discern. Since space between nucleotides is 0.34, one turn takes nanometers, 3.4. So stylish, so slick, first described in 53 by Watson and Crick. And don't forget Franklin, she took that famous X-ray pic, but she died, so she never got a Nobel Prize. DNA, fantastic deoxyribonucleic acid. We're talking about deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA, fantastic. The nitrogenous bases come in one of 4 varieties, known by the letters.
Okay, Sai. Yes. So you want to have any concluding remarks you have, or shall we go for the questions?
Sir, this book is not just for the people from the biotechnology background. It is from a person from any background for that matter. And we have a lot to learn apart from science as well. Not to be prejudiced and to be open-minded, to rise up even after fall, and not to get, I know everything, and once getting a Nobel Prize, and it's like, okay, I'm on top of the world and I'm the best. Just getting that kind of head weight, what we call it as, because there's one Nobel Prize winner who had brought bad name for himself, even in the science fraternity, because he has said HIV doesn't cause AIDS. So it's important to have that zeal even after achieving something. Even if we fall down, it's important, even if we don't get results immediately. The sustainable efforts, the sustaining efforts, the persistent efforts, that's important. That's what I take home from this book.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you, Sai, for that lovely presentation. You could see the real scientific spirit. Lovely. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Professor Sai Shri Ramamurthy? As usual, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question to her. Actually, I was watching this movie called Gemini Man. I don't know if it was there on Amazon Prime. Gemini Man. It's actually a kind of Hollywood pulp movie, but the movie is about DNA, how like this Dolly, the sheep, and all that, how they create an exact replica of a person, and it's a kind of a pulp movie, but it's very interesting to see how this DNA, the research into DNA, we call gene, editing. All those
Yes,
things
sir.
are happening. So people are, kind of, some people are creating a lot of ruckus. They say a lot of ethical issues are involved, like, I don't want to go deep into it. I'm not an expert in all those things, but it's very interesting that your book definitely will make us read more about all these things, because as you said, a layman should be aware of all these things, because we don't know. Maybe we may also have to, one point in our life, maybe we don't know. We may have to face all this gene editing and all. We don't know. Like, so. Anyway, like, lovely. Yeah. Any questions for Professor Sai?
Professor Sai, that was a wonderful review that you gave. We were all interested and excited because as a science student, you have this passion for literature and these books. I have a very wonderful question for you based on whatever you have said. You said, no, this book will be interesting for women scientists. I was really, interested about that. Now, what makes this book? Do you think that women scientists are sidelined in the scientific arena? Or
Sir, I would say no. Because, see, right from the beginning, like Rosalind Franklin, people say that she didn't get a Nobel Prize because she's a woman. No, it was not like that. She had best friends indeed, Barton and Crick. They were best friends of Rosalind Franklin. And there's also this book about Rosalind Franklin, The Dark Lady of DNA, a biography written by Brenda Maddox. So women scientists are not sidelined. This is just a kind of misconception, I would say, sir.
good, very good. Thank you. One more question for you. Where did you get this inspiration for reading so much? You write every day. You published a book of poetry. Who gives you this wonderful inspiration, Professor Sai? I wanted to ask you, very curious.
Sir, firstly from you, because I was your student and I am your student. And my dad, sir.
Ah, yes. No, parents are very important. That's why I was asking you, the encouragement that they give you, right? Good. Thank you, Professor
And
Sai Shri.
one more thing about this book. Sorry, so I just wanted to add one more thing, because see, this book was latest edited by 2017. Because in the year 2017, it was last edited. So we can read a variety of things from before DNA was announced as the genetic material, before we knew DNA was the genetic material, from now. So it tells us about a variety of things, and we can move through their labs. This book has been written so well that we feel like it is. We are in the Cold Spring Harbor laboratory. We are in the Cavendish laboratory. That's how this book has been written.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Sai Shri. Right. We enjoyed listening to you. Thank you.
Certainly. I think you have like Fritjof Capra, you have a combination of both science and humanities. So it's like a Tao of physics. They have, I think there's a book by Fritjof Capra. Anyway, I think there is one movie called Hidden Figures, which talks about the scientists in NASA, how the African American women scientists. I think the movie came out like 2 years back. Hidden Figures. It's a good movie. Anyway, nice, lovely. Nice talking to you and nice listening to you. Lovely. Sai, thanks a lot. Very good. So before we go to the next speaker, I would like to welcome all our lovely participants to this lovely session, because some of you joined late. It's okay, no problem. So anyway, welcome to all of you. And if any one of you are interested in presenting a book review, please do contact Dr. Rufus, because we would like to. This platform is something very unique. It's actually for people who they can share the ideas about books, and formality is there. We have formality, but we are not that formal. So we are kind of informally formal. Okay, so please do join us. We like to listen to different voices, so that we always appreciate. Even I was like, even last week I did a presentation. Thanks to Rufus again, and thanks to all my co-presenters also, and even moderator ma'am, Maria ma'am. Thank you. So I think we'll move on to the next speaker. She's waiting eagerly. Rajkumari ma'am, welcome, and I think the floor is all yours. Please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me an opportunity. So I'm going to review a book called Bahu by Sudha Murthy. So very a common book. So before going to that, like Sudha Murthy, a very common name in literature, in social service everywhere, and like she's a chairperson of Infosys, and so we know Infosys. Infosys is a very big kind of company in the world. And also, like Sudha Murthy, she is an recipient of Padma Shri Award and R.K. Narayan Award also in literature. So that's about Sudha Murthy. So this book, Dollar Bahu, actually why I took the book was like I was never into Sudha Murthy. I never read Sudha Murthy before at all. Like it was only a few months back I just had an interest in just knowing what kind of a person she is and why people are so why people are so fond of her books and everything. And this book I took Dollar Bahu because the title Dollar Bahu, and Bahu is an Indian word, so I just wanted to know like why she is saying a Dollar Bahu, and just wanted to see how the book goes. So normally Sudha Murthy's books are like very common, very the writing style is very simple, where anybody can understand. It's not like very difficult or people cannot understand. That is not the case. So here, this Dollar Bahu by Sudha Murthy, when we see the book, when we see the novel, it's just a commercial tele-serial, which you normally see in your home. Like what are the serials? So it's just a commercial fiction. That's all. That's the book. A story, a very simple plot, but written very beautifully. So that's what Sudha Murthy is. So when we see the content, I'll just give you the gist what the story is. So here, the main protagonist is the Gaurama. She is a middle class woman whose husband is a teacher. And see, normally as a middle class people, she wants to be, she wants to build a big house. She wants to be rich. She wants to have a luxurious lifestyle and everything. That's what is her aim. So she has 2 sons and a daughter. Her first son is Chandru, who is very committed, hardworking, organized and everything. So he is a person who settles in USA. That's the thing. And the second person is Girish, very contrasting to the character of Chandru. Girish is very simple. He's not very ambitious. He just works as a clerk in a bank. That's all. He is very comfortable with whatever he is. That's what. And we have 2 other women characters. One is Vinuta, a very beautiful, simple girl who loves singing, who loves nature and everything. And on the other hand, Jamuna, who is very plain when compared to Vinuta, but she is rich. She is very proud. So because she has money and everything. So normally when we see people, we always want people to get, intellects or the same kind of people to connect with each other. So when I was reading the book, I wanted Vinuta and Chandru to get married because they were on the same platform. Both were intellect, both were beautiful, handsome, and they were ambitious. But it's like always opposites attract each other. So Vinuta gets married to Girish, who's very simple, and Chandru gets married to Jamuna, who is very plain compared to Chandru's sharp-minded. So this is what happens here. So when we see the story, when the story moves, it's the character Gaurama, who is a main character who plays like. See, when Vinuta Chandru gets settled in USA, and Chandru is a person who's very close to his Karnataka, the Karnataka, the place where he is from. He is not very interested or very happy to be settled in USC. He always wants to come back to India. That is what he wants it. But Gaurama is a character. I'm not she's a good mother. I accept that she's a good mother. But when it comes to money, she values money more than anything else. So even when Chandru says I want to come back to India, I want to work here, she says, no, you don't come back. You be there itself and you send money to us because we have to build a very good house. We should have a very rich style. The one thing is she wants to have a show off in the neighborhood. She wants to show that, see, my son is in USA, we are having a good lifestyle. That is what she wants it. So here the dollar, another theme which really like this, dollar is more valuable than the Indian rupees, whatever may be the standard. So dollar is something more valuable. And also when we see in the society, when we see a person who is settled in USA and everything, people always rush to go to give their daughters in marriage and everything. So here also, when people come to know that Chandru is settled in US and everything, so many people come to give their daughters to him because he is just settled in USA. People value USA, I mean, people value foreign countries more than the Indian countries, because they feel that they feel, particularly USA or America, they feel like America is a place of opportunity. America is a place of luxurious lifestyle and money. That is very important when compared to the Indian style or India. So here also, that's how Jamuna gets married to Chandru, and they get settled in India, and they get settled in USA. So Gaurama, a person who is very greed, who wants a luxurious lifestyle, when she sees her dollar Bahu, I mean Jamuna, that's why Jamuna is branded as dollar Bahu. When she sees her dollar Bahu coming with so much, I mean, money and everything, she starts discriminating Vinuta. She starts comparing Jamuna and Vinuta, saying that, see how simple you are. See my dollar Bahu. She has come with riches, diamonds, and everything. So, so Vinuta is a typical Indian woman, a sacrificial nature. That is what we say. So whenever her mother-in-law criticizes her or compares her, she never raises her voice. She just takes it back, and she just does her, I mean, she just does her work. She just goes with everything. She is not ready to condemn, or she's not ready to like argue with for her identity of her voice. She becomes voiceless and everything. And as a result, as a result, Gaurama starts criticizing her, and she gets at the middle of the novel, she gets an opportunity to visit USA. So she's very happy that she is going to see USA. So it's not like Gaurama is the one thing. It's a normal character, a normal thing which we can see around us. Like, people love going to foreign countries. That is some of their dream. So here also, Gaurama, she just goes to America, and when she sees the lifestyle and everything, at the beginning of the few days of her stay in America, she's very excited. She's very excited to see the lifestyle, the people, and everything. But as the days goes, she starts seeing the difference between the US and India. I mean, the culture, the tradition, and everything. There's a clear picture comes in front of us. Like, yeah, well, okay, US can be a great country. US can be a land of opportunity. US can be a land of money. But when compared to India, no, it's not that much rich in culture or tradition. That is what she comes to know. And even when she starts staying with her daughter-in-law Jamuna, she understands the real nature of her Bahu called Jamuna. I mean, she understands money can do anything, but money cannot buy only one thing, that is love or affection. We can buy anything, but we cannot buy the love and affection. And at that point, a redemption or a kind of self-realization comes to her that she has criticized so much Vinuta. I mean, she has criticized Vinuta very badly, but Vinuta never raised a word against her. And at that point, she understands that is what is Indian culture or the tradition. So she understands it's not money which personifies or which describes a character of a person. It's their simple nature, accepting, adjusting, and loving people in spite of hate and criticism. And then she understands the value of Vinuta compared to her dollar Bahu, and she just comes back to India, and there's a reunion between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law. So that's how the story, I mean, the novel ends. So here, I mean, when we see the plot, it's very simple, very common, which is normally telecasted in daily serials. When that's the thing. So there's not a very big plot or a serious characters we don't have. Even the characters which the Sudha Murthy has portrayed is a common character which is present in our neighborhood. So it's a normal common story which happens also which also happens around us. That's the one thing. But the one thing what I like about Sudha Murthy is the writing style. The story is very simple, but when you read her writing style, when you read a novel, you feel like as if in front of you a picture is just, I mean, a picture is just running. That is the visualization that she creates is something which I personally like. And also, whenever you read a Sudha Murthy's book, you can always find that when richness of food, culture, and place, the way she explains the vivid description of the place, the nature, the personality of a character, that actually makes that normally attracts or hooks us to the book. So here also the place called Dharwat. I have never visited Dharwat, but when she gives a description about the place Dharwat, the 7 mountains, the description of the nature, everything, I mean, I really fell in love with the place called Dharwat, and I just want to visit that place. And also the culture, the different varieties of the food and everything. She normally gives a varieties of food and the Kannada foods and everything. She gives a brief description about it. So Sudha Murthy's style, the writing style is something very important that personally I like it. And one more thing which I wanted to, the thing is, there are some themes which actually Sudha Murthy has focused here. One thing is, first, opposites attract each other. See, we always think intellects get together. No, sometimes opposites go in. And the next one is money versus love, which is very important. Money or love. The next one is whether Indian rupees are valuable or dollar is valuable. The next one is culture, music, and beauty. So these are the common themes which we can see in Sudha Murthy's book. So this is what I wanted to say. Though it's a very commercial fiction, we can relate ourselves or our life with the novel. That's the one good good aspect of Sudha Murthy's writing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rajkumari, for that lovely, we were really literally, grasping narration of your lovely book, Dollar Bahu. One thing which I want to add here, I think this was made into a serial, and in the year 2001, when the crew, the cast and the crew, when they went to US for the shooting, they were all in a traumatic situation, because that was the time when 9/11 happened. I think there was a reference somewhere that 9/11 happened, and so beautiful. So, what do you think? Have you seen some episodes of the serial, no, you're not seen. Okay, right.
No, actually, I know like it was casted into a serial. Normally, I don't prefer. I mean, I love reading books. I don't see films because films always disappoint me after reading the book.
That's one thing which I thought of, not a question, but kind of, the adaptations we have, like how far it is authentic and how far it is reading a book. There are different examples we have. Very rarely we have books like Life of Pi or something which are...
yes, sir. That's, I mean, that is the only film which I appreciate because which...
Yes. But most of the time, as you said, it is a failed attempt. Yes, lovely. Anyway, I think we have the floor is open for questions for Rajkumari ma'am. Already there is a comment from Hemasri ma'am. She agrees to you saying that the Gauramma loves dollar, not currency of India. True. So I think there is a person who agrees with that statement. And any other questions for Rajkumari ma'am? You can ask your questions now. I think there are no questions, I think. So thank you, Rajkumari ma'am. Thanks a lot. Lovely. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. So with that, we have finished today's 4 speakers, but still we have some time for discussions. If you want to discuss something related to the 4 books which was presented today, you can present your ideas. So the floor is open for a general discussion, right, on all the 4 books, or anything else you want to talk about. You can related to the books, you can share it now. Okay, meanwhile, as we are waiting for some questions, I think we are all ready with the next week's session. On September 4th, we have the Books and Coffee. We have lovely participation from the publisher, Miss Nalini Olivannan. She is part of the Emerald Publishing Company, and she will be having an interface with the budding writers. There are many people who like to see their names published and their works published. So I think it's the right opportunity for people to talk to Miss Nalini Olivannan, part of Emerald Publishers, So she'll be there next week. So please do mark the date in the calendar, September 4th. Along with that, we also have Dr. Archana from Anna Adarsh College for Women. She will present her book review on IGOTS. I hope it is pronunciation is okay. The IGOTS, the Ukrainian and the Russian notebooks. So Archana ma'am will talk about the Ukrainian and the Russian notebooks. So that will be the second presentation for next week. We also have Dr. R. Rajagovindaswamy, formerly head of the Department of English, Principal, Tyagaraja College, Madurai. Sir will be presenting on Jeffrey Archer's Old Love. So that is his third presentation we have for next week. And then we have the fourth presentation by Miss Amita Rachel Thomas. She's a student of Madras Christian College, second MA Literature. And she will be presenting her ideas and the review of the book, Shashi Tharoor's An Era of Darkness. So these are the beautiful presentations we have for next week. So please do join us next week. And if you don't have any other queries, I think we will.
Yeah, I'm coming in.
Yes. No problem, ma'am. You're welcome. Please.
Okay, no, the sunflower, the book sunflower, no, just a comment, no questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Kind of that whole, the whole, question of like forgiveness and forgetting and about violence.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of writers have engaged with that question. I would even say cudgelled in a way, cudgelled with that. Franz Fanon, Ashish Nandi, Navar Gandhi, all of them have discussed the psychological effects of especially the colonial interaction. And in most recent time, the one thing that actually came to my mind was Mandela's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which really brought all these questions about forgiveness and psychological health to the fore. And he, in fact, chose psychological health. Mandela chose psychological health, and he very, very, very strongly came out against violence toward the white people in South Africa, and in a sense that was what that kept the country together, because he put so much of emphasis on that act of recalling violence. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was basically a forum where white people could come and talk about the crime that they committed, and I won't say forgiven, but in a way come to terms with it.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are two aspects to this. There's one is like forgiveness for psychological health, one's own psychological health. But then the other aspect is that like Dalai Lama said, violence is violence. And the reality of violence has to be acknowledged. And there are no two ways about that, acknowledging the hurt. Hurt is real, violence is real, pain, sorrow, all that is real. So yeah, so it is a time immemorial kind of a question, which we need to grapple with at many different individual, as a society, cultural levels. So it's nice, interesting. Just a comment, no question.
Yeah, very nice, ma'am. Very nice, lovely. Thank you, Aparna, ma'am, for that lovely, beautiful, a kind of broader perspective of the word forgiveness. It's really good. I think it's and even Sumati, ma'am, has given some sunflower is symbolic of adoration, faithfulness, longevity, and spiritual knowledge. Beautiful, lovely. So what is the deeper meaning of the flower? Beautiful, lovely. Thank you, Samadi ma'am. Thank you, Aparna ma'am. Any other questions or even a comment maybe?
I'm the true teacher. I never stop speaking.
Yes.
Okay, no, about the book DNA.
Yes.
Okay, and there was a lot of talk and mention of Rosalind Franklin.
Yes.
So it just came to my mind that Vijay Padki of Bangalore Little Theatre, he actually has a play called Photograph 51, and in that play he narrates or recounts to us the conflict that was going on at that time between the team of Watson and Crick and Rosalind Franklin, and his emphasis is on the character of Rosalind Franklin herself, and how she, because it's almost kind of Shakespearean in the sense, because it was like her own personality and her own character, and her insistence on adhering to a certain type of narrative about her own work that led her to be kind of isolated from all this research that was going on. And in fact, that the importance of that photograph 51, that's why it's called photograph 51, is because that was the evidence that actually nailed the theory of Watson and Crick. And they did not publicly acknowledge it at that time. Of course, later it did come out. But at the time when they did get the Nobel Prize, there was a sense, I mean, like purposely they did not highlight that is something that is there. So
Right.
just a comment, not.
Okay, ma'am. Lovely, lovely. Like, nice.
Sir, can I get a chance?
Yeah, yeah. Sai, ma'am, you can
Yes,
maybe
sir.
put a comment. Yeah.
Ma'am, sir, it's just a sentence, just something that I would like to add up.
Yes.
James Watson has written a lot of books for the general public and as well as for the people from his own background, sharing his own background. There is one book which he wrote first called The Story of the DNA. In that, he has actually acknowledged Rosalind Franklin. And in this book, again, there are a lot of other books being mentioned, including Dark Lady of DNA and then Extraordinary Measures, One in a Billion. There are a lot of books being mentioned in this book, DNA itself. He has given credit to the best that he can.
Okay. Thank you, Sai, for that information. Very nice. So, yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, ma'am. Yes, please.
Yeah. So thank you, Aparna ma'am, for those lovely observations and insights. Yes, that's a very valid observation, because even Desmond Tutu, whom I quoted from, he also has been part of this Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and then he also speaks something very similar to what you say. Like he also talks about Nelson Mandela and how such can't call it forgiveness, but then reconciliation is possible. And it's healthier, without forgiveness there is no future. So very beautifully you have mentioned. Thank you for adding so much value to what I said. And also Sumati ma'am, thank you for this lovely comment. Like sunflower itself becomes, earlier in the group we were discussing the language of flowers, and so much of colors of the flowers, the symbols and all that was discussed. And you beautifully said that, because yes, Simon Wiesenthal's idea is also not to to stir up hatred or anything. There is one very interesting response by one among the 53. There's this Albert Speer. He had been one of the leading Nazi officers. So from the opposite party also they have a person saying, and he says, when I spoke to Wiesenthal, he was never judgmental. He was for forgiving. He was so actually the sunflower is also a symbol of forgiveness. So the whole the very positive spirit permeates the book, and you have beautifully pointed it out. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, just 1 minute. I would like to thank Aparna ma'am, because she helped me add something that I have actually missed out during my presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. This is the way everyone is supporting and encouraging. This is the beauty of this group. I think even our WhatsApp group is like this. everyone's post and everything is kind of, always, the feedback is given. Rufus is very meticulous in that. Even Angie ma'am to a certain extent. I don't do that. I'm really sorry about that. But these two people and even others, there are many people like even Nasreen ma'am, a lot of people who are very active, which makes our reading group very active. So if any one of you like to join our group, please contact Rufus sir and you just try to be part of the group. And there is one more comment, Angie. You are appreciated, dear Angie. The author saw those flowers as he's passing by graveyard. That has made him feel the sobriety of the situation. Very good. I think one comment for you from Sumati ma'am. Yes. Thank you, Sumati ma'am. Do you want to add something to that or? That's it. Okay. Thank you. Lovely. So, any other comments? Even a comment is a good. Thank you, Aparna ma'am. You literally, took us to a different level. Thanks a lot. Lovely, lovely, beautiful. So, any other comment or any other, observations you want to make? If not, we have our next week session. I already gave the Preeti ma'am. Yes. Hello, ma'am. Preeti ma'am. Yes, Preeti ma'am. I think. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Just want to share. Can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am. Please, please, please.
Just want to share from my area of research, Australian studies. There's a lot of work on reconciliation. Symbolically, they crossed that bridge, Sydney Harbour Bridge, black and white crossing the bridge. And one of the subjects of my research, Dr. Jackie Huggins, she was the chair of Reconciliation Australia for 13 years. And I learned from my research there that they were influenced by the movement in Africa.
Okay.
So they were influenced by Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela. So actually there are a lot of transnational flows in all these things. Even the Holocaust, this sharing your stories so that you have healing. The similar thing, the Shoah Foundation was a model for the sharing of stories in Australia, and that's how you had the Bringing Them Home report, of 1997. So sharing of stories help people reconnect with lost relations, lost family members. It's amazing if we start looking at things from a transnational perspective. There's such a lot to say about that. I'll just leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So good to listen to you. Beautiful. Thank you, Angie, ma'am. You have any comments on that?
No, ma'am. No, sir. Just thank you, Preeti, ma'am, for your lovely insights. I'll also look at that. Very true. The therapeutic thing of life writing. So beautiful. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that observation.
Always a pleasure to listen to Maria, ma'am.
Yes.
The person for Australian literature. Thanks a lot, ma'am. So good to listen to your voice. Beautiful. Now I think we have a comment from Nasreen, ma'am. She's actually elaborated on the concept of using a sunflower, Greek mythology, and how they celebrated sunflowers' dedication to the sun in the tale of a water nymph. So she's actually has done a lovely job, and how in her adoration of Apollo, she would sit on the earth and gaze at the sun day after day, while Apollo took no notice of the water nymph. The other gods felt compassion for her and beautiful, lovely, and turned into a sunflower. So excellent, beautiful. Thank you, Nasreen, man. What a lovely, connection we have there. Lovely. Thanks a lot. Angie, I think it's a very beautiful connection. With the title of your book. Very nice, lovely. And we have Rashida Madani. Hello, ma'am. Long time. We were not in touch. I'm sorry about that, but still, I'm so happy to see your message. When are you coming back to the group? That's what I want to ask you now. Openly, I'm asking you. So please do come back when you're free. Yeah, she's already thanked Angie ma'am for the beautiful reviews and lovely, excellent, beautiful. So any other comments? So this is what we are in RR, and we want to read and grow together. That's the only thing we have. And thank you, Rufus. Words are not enough to thank you. It's really great. Thanks a lot. So with that, I think we will end this session. Thank you to all the lovely people who joined us for the review. 4 of you, like Lakshmi ma'am, Sai ma'am, Angeline ma'am, and even Rajkumari ma'am. Thanks a lot. Thanks to Rufus, who is there behind everything. He's there, his unseen presence, he's there, and he's actually actually kind of, guided us through this whole event. Thanks to you, and also all the great professors and teachers and students who are there in this. I can see their names, like a lot of people are there. I don't want to read out all the names. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for spending this beautiful Friday evening with us. I hope this session was useful, and please do join us next week. It will be a lovely session. So please do come back next week. And I think with that, we will say goodbye. And I wish everyone a happy, a lovely, productive, book-filled weekend. Thank you. Lovely.